Autofocus has gotten better and better as time goes on, so the amount of work required by you, the human, has kept going down, but that amount will never reach zero. I don't really want to make this video. I don't think that it'll reach all the right people who need it since this channel isn't about camera tips, but yesterday I watched 2 videos from great channels where the focus kept going in and out and thought this is probably a topic worth demystifying just in case someone does get some value out of it. Set your camera to autofocus and you will see that there are different autofocus areas. They might have different names based on specific manufacturer, but you have to select the right area for what you're shooting. For example, say you're shooting a live stream. You're always going to be sitting right in the center of the frame, so set the focus area to center. If something bright or close to the lens comes into frame, the camera will ignore it unless it's in the center of the frame. I'm assuming this YouTuber is so used to standing in the center of the frame while shooting solo, he forgot to swap the focus area when a guest came in, so the focus is always in this range hood in the background instead of on the hosts. This live stream host didn't have his camera set to center, so the camera is focusing on the bright, high contrast stuff in the background. The most popular focus area is probably wide. This tells your camera to take in as much information as possible all across the frame and focus on whatever's closest to the lens. This is good because if I'm shooting myself, I'm the closest thing to the lens. And if I hold something out towards the camera, that's probably what I want it to focus on. The problem is the camera might focus on something that's slightly closer to the lens than myself, like this microphone that I'm holding, not my eyes. And if you're doing a portrait of someone, it might focus on the tip of their nose, making the rest of their face out of focus. Or in my case, the brim of my hat is closer to the lens than my actual face. A common problem that I run into all the time is a shot of throwing stuff into a mixing bowl. The outermost lip of the bowl that's closest to the camera will be in focus, so everything else won't be. So instead, you might want to pick zone focus. That's the same thing, but it splits the screen into a 3x3 grid and ignores everything outside of a predetermined zone. It tells the camera, focus on whatever's closest to you, but only if it's in this general area. You can get even more specific with flexible spot focus. This lets you select a large, medium, or small square and then position that square exactly where you want the focus zone to be. This is what I use most frequently when talking directly to camera because I can put a square directly over where my eyes will be and I don't have to worry about the microphone, the desk, or anything on my desk stealing focus. Of course, this only works because I'm holding still and using a tripod. Some cameras have expandable spots, which is to say focus on everything within this small square, but if you can't find what you're looking for, expand that area to this bigger square. I use autofocus most of the time, but you still have to use manual focus sometimes. Let's say I'm doing an overhead shot of a pan full of ingredients. If I come in to stir those ingredients, that big, bright, high contrast hand full of motion is going to steal focus from the pan. There's virtually no way to avoid that when something pops in and takes up this much of the screen. So switch the camera to manual, focus the shot on the items in the pan, and let your hands come in and out while remaining out of focus. Also, there's always the option to just blast your shot with incredible amounts of light and set your camera to f12, so virtually everything's in focus, but most of us aren't really able to do that unless we're shooting something outside. One of the worst feelings of all time is shooting a big, important project, thinking that you nailed focus when you look at the little camera screen on the back, and then you bring it into a big monitor and find out that the part that you actually care most about is just a tiny bit out of focus the entire time. Once you figure out these focus areas, the frequency of that awful feeling will be tremendously reduced.